I never thought my own children would betray me. But on Christmas Eve, instead of sitting around the fireplace with family, I was sitting on a stiff mattress in a nursing home, abandoned like an old piece of furniture. It all happened so fast. One moment I was in my house, the one I built with my late husband over 35 years of hard work, and the next, my son Daniel was standing over me with a cold expression I'll never forget. "Dad," he said flatly, "this is for your own good. You can't live alone anymore." Before I could even argue, my daughter-in-law Melissa shoved a folder into my hands. "Just sign it," she said impatiently. I didn't even know what I was signing. My hands shook as I held the pen, my eyes blurred from tears. They rushed me, told me it was just paperwork for the nursing home, but the way Melissa smiled as she took the papers back, my heart sank. By nightfall, I was dropped off in a nursing home an hour away with a bag of clothes and no explanation. The halls smelled of bleach. The nurses didn't even know my name yet. And while other families visited their loved ones for the holiday, mine had vanished. I sat on the bed, staring at the peeling wallpaper, asking myself over and over, how could they do this to me? And then, something in me snapped, because what Daniel and Melissa didn't know was this. I had already spoken to my lawyer 2 months earlier. And the truth about my inheritance, my property, and my future was very different from what they thought. So while they celebrated Christmas in my house, thinking they had finally gotten rid of me, I was planning a return that would shock them all. The next morning, I walked out of that nursing home with a single phone call. By sunset, I was sipping tea in my new $7 million villa, watching the lights twinkle over the ocean. And as for my children, let's just say, they didn't see it coming. Christmas used to be my favorite time of the year. My late wife, Margaret, always made sure of that. She had a way of making the whole house smell like cinnamon and pine, of filling every corner with warmth and laughter. Even after she passed away 5 years ago, I tried to keep the traditions alive for our children's sake. Every Christmas Eve, we would gather around the long oak dining table. Daniel, my eldest son, would bring his wife, Melissa, and their 2 children. My daughter, Sarah, came with her husband, Greg, and their little boy. The house was noisy, full of chatter and wrapping paper and spilled hot cocoa. But last year, things felt different. Daniel seemed distracted, always glued to his phone. Melissa had a sharp tongue, and I often caught her rolling her eyes when I repeated old stories. Sarah was colder, distant. Greg, her husband, barely spoke to me unless it was about money or investments. I brushed it off at first. Families change. Kids grow up. But deep down, I felt the warmth fading, replaced with something I couldn't name. That Christmas Eve, while I was stirring the gravy, Melissa whispered to Daniel loud enough for me to hear, "Honestly, your dad can't keep living alone. Look at him. He's barely keeping it together." I froze, spoon in hand. Did she really think I was incapable? I was 72, yes. Slower, yes. But I still cooked, drove, even tended the garden. I tried to laugh it off during dinner, but the seed was planted. They weren't seeing me as family anymore. They were seeing me as a burden, and I had no idea how far they would go with that thought. After Christmas, the conversations turned serious. Daniel came by one afternoon with a stack of papers. "Dad," he said, pulling up a chair at the kitchen table, "we need to talk about your future." "My future?" I frowned. "Daniel, I'm fine," he shook his head. "You think you are. But what if something happens? You need protection. You need someone to handle your finances, your property, everything, for your own good." Melissa appeared then, setting down coffee like she was hosting some business meeting. "Exactly. You shouldn't have to worry about bills and legal stuff at your age. Daniel and I can handle it." My heart sank. I could hear Margaret's voice in my head. "Don't ever sign something you don't understand." I tried to delay them. "I'll think about it. Maybe talk to my lawyer." Melissa's smile tightened. "Lawyers complicate things. This is simple. Just sign power of attorney and everything will be smooth." Power of attorney. The phrase alone made me nervous. Still, they kept pushing. Day after day. Sarah joined in too, though she was less direct. She'd sigh heavily whenever she visited, saying things like, "Dad, it's so hard driving here every week. We just want to make life easier for everyone." I started to wonder if they cared about me, or just what I owned. It was a cold December afternoon when Daniel arrived with Melissa and Sarah. They didn't even knock, just walked in like the house was already theirs. "Dad, We've talked about this enough, Daniel said firmly, pulling out the folder again. It's time. Melissa slid the papers across the table, her manicured finger tapping the signature line. Just sign here. Then we can take care of everything. You'll never have to stress again. My stomach churned. I didn't trust them. But the way they hovered over me, 3 against 1, I felt cornered. Sarah added softly, "Please, Dad, do it for us." My hands shook as I held the pen. I wanted to say no, but Melissa's glare cut through me and Daniel muttered, "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." So I signed. The moment the pen lifted from the page, Melissa snatched the folder, clutching it like treasure. She smiled, but not at me, at Daniel, and in that instant, I knew I had just made a terrible mistake. I should have been home, sitting by the fire, maybe holding a glass of mulled wine while my grandchildren laughed and tore into their presents. Instead, I was staring at beige walls and listening to a stranger groan in the next room. It happened so fast. On Christmas Eve morning, Daniel told me we were going for a drive. I thought maybe he was surprising me with a family outing. I even wore the sweater Margaret knitted for me years ago, the one with the snowflakes. But when the car stopped, I realized something was wrong. The sign outside read, Oakview Retirement and Nursing Facility. "Daniel?" I asked, my voice cracking. "Why are we here?" He wouldn't meet my eyes. Melissa leaned forward from the passenger seat and said sharply, "Dad, this is for the best. You need care we can't give you at home." Before I could protest, they had me inside, paperwork already filled out. The receptionist gave me a rehearsed smile. "Welcome, Mr. Harris. We've got your room ready." I wanted to scream, "I don't belong here." But my throat tightened. The betrayal crushed me. When they left, Melissa gave a little wave. "Merry Christmas, Dad." The doors closed behind them and I was alone. Truly alone. That night, while families filled the halls with visitors and carols, I sat on a stiff mattress, tears soaking into my pillow. I had never felt more unwanted. The first 2 days were a blur of nurses checking in, other residents shuffling by with walkers, and the endless hum of fluorescent lights. I barely spoke, but people noticed. One kind woman, Clara, who was in her 80s, sat with me in the dining hall. "You're new," she said, her eyes sharp despite her frail frame. "Family put you here?" I nodded. "Couldn't even get the words out," she sighed knowingly. "Happens more than you'd think. Children get greedy. They trick you into signing papers, then tuck you away here so they can take what's yours." Her words hit me like ice water. That folder. That signature, could it be true? That night, I tried calling Daniel, no answer. I tried Sarah, straight to voicemail. Melissa blocked me altogether. It was as if I had been erased. But Clara's warning stuck in my mind. I dug out my old address book and called the one person I still trusted, my lawyer, Mr. Roberts. When he answered, his voice was calm but urgent. "I've been waiting for your call, Mr. Harris," I frowned. "Waiting? Why?" There was a pause. Then he said quietly, "Because your children don't know everything, and the truth is going to shock them." The next morning, Mr. Roberts came to visit me at Oakview. Just seeing a familiar face gave me hope. He carried a leather briefcase, his expression serious. "Mr. Harris," he said, lowering his voice, "I reviewed the papers you signed. Yes, they gave themselves power over your primary residence and accounts. But what they don't know," he tapped the briefcase, "is that 6 weeks ago you and I set up a private trust, and that trust is untouchable." I blinked. The fog in my mind began to clear. I remembered now, the meeting we had in his office just after I caught Melissa snooping in my study. We had drafted documents sealed in secrecy. "Untouchable?" I whispered. He nodded. "They think they control everything. But the truth is, the most valuable asset, the one worth millions, is still yours, and only yours." "They don't even know it exists." My heart raced. Could this be real? Mr. Roberts leaned closer. "I can get you out of here today." "But I need your word. You're ready to show them who really holds the cards." I clenched my fists. The sadness I'd felt the night before hardened into something else. Determination. "Yes," I said firmly. "It's time they learned the truth." As Mr. Roberts spoke, my mind drifted back to the day we first met in his office, 2 months before Christmas. I had gone to see him after something unsettling happened. Melissa had been in my study, rifling through drawers when I walked in unexpectedly. She laughed it off, saying she was looking for wrapping paper, but I knew better. She was searching for documents. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing Margaret's voice in my head. Protect what we worked for. Don't let anyone take it from you. So the next morning, I called Mr. Roberts. He listened patiently, nodding as I explained my suspicions. Then he said, "Mr. Harris, you're wise to be cautious. Families sometimes show their true colors when inheritance is at stake. If you want to make sure your wishes are honored, we need to create a trust that bypasses all interference." I didn't understand all the legal jargon, but I understood one thing: safety. That day, I signed papers, not the kind Daniel and Melissa waved in front of me, but documents that secured my most valuable asset, a property they didn't even know I owned. And as I sat in that nursing home, remembering the ink drying on those papers, I realized my children had walked straight into a trap of their own making. The property wasn't just a random purchase. It was something that tied back to Margaret, my late wife. Years ago, before she passed, she had confided in me about a small investment she'd made quietly with an old friend, her childhood neighbor, Thomas. At the time, I thought nothing of it. She always liked to keep a little something aside. After her passing, Thomas reached out. He had sold the land they'd invested in decades ago, and Margaret's portion had grown far beyond anything I imagined. Nearly $3 million had been deposited into an account under her name. I cried when I saw the statement. Not because of the money itself, but because it felt like Margaret had reached across time to care for me, to protect me. With that money, and with Mr. Roberts' guidance, I purchased something Margaret had always dreamed of: a villa by the sea, a place of peace, a place she had clipped pictures of and kept in her scrapbook for years. It wasn't just a property. It was her dream, now mine, and it was worth nearly $7 million my children didn't know. They didn't even suspect. While they fought over the house I currently lived in, they were blind to the fact that the true inheritance had already moved far beyond their reach. Back in the nursing home, Mr. Roberts laid out the plan. "Here's what we'll do," he said, sliding the briefcase onto the table. "You don't belong here, and you don't need to beg them for respect. We'll move you into the villa immediately. It's fully under your name and held in trust. They can't touch it. They can't even contest it." My heart pounded. "But what about the papers I signed?" "They only cover your current house and accounts," he reassured me. "We'll deal with that in court if we must. But as far as the villa goes, it's untouchable. And tomorrow you'll be living there." For the first time since Christmas Eve, I felt like I could breathe again. I imagined their faces when they realized I wasn't trapped in Oakview begging for scraps. I imagined Melissa's smirk vanishing, Daniel's voice stammering, Sarah's eyes widening in shock. They had betrayed me for greed, but their greed blinded them. And now, I had the chance to show them what real strength looked like. I gripped Mr. Roberts' hand firmly. "Let's do it," he smiled. "Merry Christmas, Mr. Harris. Tomorrow you'll wake up in your new home." The morning after Mr. Roberts' visit, I woke up with a strange feeling in my chest. Not dread, not despair. Something I hadn't felt in weeks: hope. The nursing staff was surprised when Mr. Roberts arrived with official papers. "Mr. Harris is being discharged," he said firmly, showing the documents. They didn't argue. Within half an hour, I was dressed, my bag packed, and standing at the front doors. Outside, a sleek black car waited. A driver held the door open for me. I hesitated for a moment, looking back at the building. For a few days, it had felt like a prison, but in truth, it had been my wake-up call. I stepped into the car, and as we pulled away, I whispered to myself, goodbye to the old life. Time for a new one. The ride was quiet, but my heart thundered as we drove toward the coast. The closer we got, the more I could smell the salty air, hear the faint crash of waves, and then I saw it, the villa. White stone walls glowing in the sun, glass windows reflecting the ocean, palm trees swaying gently. My breath caught in my throat. Margaret would have loved it. No, Margaret had chosen it in her way. As I stepped out of the car, Mr. Roberts handed me the keys. "Welcome home, Mr. Harris." I gripped them tightly, tears filling my eyes. "Home," I whispered. Finally, the villa was more than I ever imagined. Wide terraces overlooked the sea. The kitchen gleamed with marble counters. The master bedroom opened onto a balcony where the sunrise painted the sky in gold and pink. For the first time in years, I felt peace. I spent the first day simply walking from room to room, running my hands along the walls, breathing in the scent of the ocean breeze. That night I sat on the balcony with a cup of tea, listening to the waves crash below. It felt like Margaret was with me. But peace didn't erase betrayal. I couldn't forget the way Daniel refused to look me in the eye, or the way Melissa shoved those papers at me like I was nothing but an obstacle. I couldn't forget Sarah's silence, her quiet nod that cut deeper than shouting ever could. They thought they had me cornered. They thought I was locked away, powerless while they enjoyed my house. But they were about to learn the truth, because Mr. Roberts had already sent letters to their homes. Official letters, explaining the reality of the trust, explaining that their father was not only alive and well, but thriving in a property they couldn't touch. I could almost picture Melissa's face when she opened hers. It didn't take long. 3 days after I moved into the villa, the sound of tires screeching on the driveway shattered the calm. I stepped outside to find Daniel's car parked crookedly, Sarah right behind him. Melissa slammed her door so hard it echoed. "Dad!" Daniel shouted, storming toward me. His face was red with rage. "What the hell is this?" "We thought you were supposed to be at Oakview." Melissa's eyes darted around, taking in the villa. Her mouth twisted. "So this is where you've been hiding. You were planning this all along, weren't you?" Sarah's voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell us, Dad? Why would you keep this from your own children?" I stood tall, my hands steady. For once, they weren't in control. "I didn't tell you," I said slowly, "because you showed me exactly how much you valued me. You put me away like garbage. You wanted my money, my house, not me." Daniel clenched his fists. "We're your family. We deserve this." Melissa spat the words out like venom. "You owe us!" I shook my head. "No, I don't owe you a single thing. And you're about to find out why." The three of them stood in front of me, their voices rising like a storm. Daniel's fists were clenched. "You tricked us, Dad. You let us think—" I cut him off. "No, Daniel. You tricked me. You shoved papers under my nose, rushed me, lied to me. You put me in that place to rot while you sat in my house." Melissa's voice dripped with venom. "We were just trying to protect you. You're too old to manage all this." "Protect me?" I snapped. "You didn't visit. You didn't call. You didn't even check if I was eating or sleeping. You only wanted what I had." Sarah stepped forward, her face pale. "Dad, we just thought it would be easier this way." "Easier for you," I said bitterly. Mr. Roberts, who had been quietly waiting nearby, stepped forward with a folder. "For the record," he said firmly, "Mr. Harris is perfectly capable of managing his affairs, and this villa, along with the trust, is entirely his. None of you have any claim." Melissa's jaw dropped. Daniel's face went crimson. Sarah started crying, and for once I didn't feel weak. I felt strong. Daniel took a deep breath, forcing calm into his voice. "Okay, fine. You outsmarted us. But think about the grandkids, Dad. Don't you want to provide for their future?" Melissa jumped in, her tone suddenly sweet. "Yes, exactly. You don't need all this space, not at your age. Just give us the villa, and we'll make sure the children grow up with stability." I stared at them in disbelief. Even now, after everything, they were still circling like vultures. "You had a chance to show me love," I said coldly. "You had a chance to prove family mattered more than money. But you didn't. You showed me where your loyalty really lies." Sarah's tears turned to anger. "So what, Dad? You're just going to cut us out completely?" I nodded slowly. "Yes." Mr. Roberts opened the folder and laid the papers on the table. "This is the amended will. Everything, this villa, the trust, the remaining assets, goes to charitable foundations, scholarships, and community causes that Mr. Harris has chosen. None of you are listed as beneficiaries." Daniel's face twisted with rage. "You can't do this!" But I looked him in the eye. "I just did." The silence that followed was heavy. I watched the three of them process the truth. Daniel paced like a caged animal, muttering curses under his breath. Melissa folded her arms, her face pale with fury. Sarah just stood there, tears streaming silently. I felt no joy in their pain. Only clarity. "You put me away on Christmas Eve," I said quietly. "You treated me like a burden, like trash to be discarded. But you forgot something. Money can be taken, property can be signed away. But respect? Respect is earned. And you lost mine the moment you turned your backs on me, Melissa scoffed. So you're just going to live out here alone in this big house while we struggle? I nodded. Yes, because I'd rather live alone with peace than be surrounded by people who see me as a wallet instead of a father. They didn't argue after that. One by one they left, their angry footsteps fading down the driveway. I stood on the balcony that evening, the sun dipping below the horizon, the waves crashing below. For the first time in years, I felt truly free. I raised my teacup to the sky, whispering to Margaret's memory, "We did it, love. They'll never hurt me again." And in that moment, I knew I hadn't lost my family. I had simply lost the illusion of one. Respect matters more than money, and now they know it too.